Florida has over 800 miles of coastline and some of the most beautiful beaches in the entire country. But let's be real, not every beach here is going to be a tropical dream. Some have water quality issues, some are overcrowded, and some are just plain ugly. So today we're going to do something a little bit different, and we're going to hand out awards. One for the worst beach in every major Florida vacation area. Now that doesn't always mean that these are the ugly beaches that no one should ever go to. In fact, some of these are beautiful and wildly popular, and I actually kind of like some of these. But each has a catch, whether it's pollution, crowding, safety concerns, parking, or just a vibe that's kind of off. So if I mention your favorite beach here or call out one you really don't think deserves to be on this list, let me know in the comment section and come to your favorite beach's defense. So from the Panhandle to Miami all the way to the Keys, we're taking a statewide tour of Florida's most disappointing, dangerous, or just plain frustrating patches of sand. This is the worst beaches in Florida, and some of the reasons might surprise you. We're going to start all the way up in the Panhandle and make our way all the way down to the Keys. But here in the Panhandle, this one was really difficult because this is an area that I think has some of the nicest beaches in the entire state. So even though it might not be that fair, we're going to go with Panama City Beach here.
Boo this man!
And okay, I hear you. Put your pitchforks down. Let's be clear. Panama City Beach is actually a beautiful beach. I love Panama City Beach. I've just done a video on this place. The water is emerald green, the sand is powdery white, and in recent years, the city has made a real effort to clean up its act. Gone are the wild MTV-style spring breaks of the early 2000s. Alcohol is now banned on the beach during March, and law enforcement presence out here is strong. It's a lot more family-friendly, and it's a lot more manageable than it used to be. That said, though, this is still one of the busiest and most built-up beaches in the entire state, especially during spring break still. It's not as wild as it used to be, but it's still a thing here. And the crowds can be overwhelming if you're just looking for a place to sit down and have some peace and quiet. That's really not a thing here at Panama City Beach. And here's the real kicker. Panama City Beach is consistently ranked as one of the most dangerous beaches in Florida when it comes to surf-related deaths. I'm not talking about sharks or sea monsters here, but rip currents are a serious issue here, and lots of tragic events have occurred when visitors ignored those red flag warnings. It's not a bad beach, it's a beautiful beach. It's far from a bad beach, it's a really nice beach. But its combination of popularity, density, high rises, over-tourism, and surf risk earns its spot here. And this is a stretch of coastline that has lots of beautiful beaches, so somebody here had to take the L. Panama City, I'm sorry, but that's you. And before we continue, if you're into Florida's hidden gems, tourist attractions, quirky towns, and places most tourists miss, hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel a ton, and there's plenty more coming up you won't want to miss. Next, we're going to head over to the northeast part of Florida and the Jacksonville area, where the waves are a little bit rougher, and so is the beach experience. And we're going to give the worst beach award up here to Hugenat Memorial Park Beach. This is located just northeast of Jacksonville, and Hugenat Memorial Park Beach is one of the few places in Florida where you can legally drive your car right up onto the sand. And unfortunately, that's also going to be one of the main problems here. Between the tire tracks, occasional stuck trucks, the noise, the atmosphere, it can be really hard to find a peaceful spot here if you're trying to relax and not take part in the weekend pickup truck rally on the beach. Add in some rough surf and lots of jellyfish warnings, and this beach can become more of a rowdy obstacle course than a vacation destination. It also has a history of poor water quality. Back in 2023, the Florida Department of Health issued advisories after stormwater runoff and wildlife waste pushed bacteria levels above the safe thresholds. And on top of that, facilities here are kind of minimal and maintenance can be hit or miss. You're essentially trading beachside views for tailgate fumes and the constant fear that someone's going to peel out next to you while you're on the beach. This can be a fun beach, and it's a unique beach because you can bring your car up on there, but that doesn't mean everybody is going to love it, and it may not be the most relaxing, idyllic beach day for you. Now let's talk about Central Florida. Orlando is landlocked, but locals and visitors still want their beach day, so what's the closest coastal disappointment? Worst beach in this area? Daytona Beach. Driving on the beach is a Daytona tradition, and honestly, we respect that. Auto racing was born here. It goes back over 100 years, and it's still one of the few places in the US where you can legally park your car in the sand like it's a folding chair. But between the tire tracks, the fumes, the traffic jams on the beach, and the occasional oil drips, it does kind of feel like you're tanning in pit lane out here. Today's Daytona is hit or miss. The town has kind of a rough around the edges vibe that feels worn in places, with storefronts that look tired and a general sense that the town's seen brighter days or is kind of stuck in the past. Now, I remember coming here back in the day for spring break and loving it here. I love Daytona Beach. Now when I visit here, I feel a little bit sad and underwhelmed. And I wonder, was the town always like this and I just didn't notice, or has it really fallen off over the years? The town now gets by on hosting big events that can bring in crowds that are, let's just say, a bit spirited. NASCAR races, Bike Week, and the Welcome to Rockville Music Festival bring in huge crowds of people for who Daytona Beach is going to be really on brand. And spring break, it's still kind of a thing here, but it's not nearly as big as it was back when MTV set up shop here. And the beach itself, it can get really covered in seaweed during the summer. And while that's technically natural, it's really annoying, and it's not great when you're trying to find a spot that doesn't smell like low tide, rotten eggs, and diesel exhaust. But deep down, I still kind of have a soft spot for Daytona. It's got history, it's got grit, it's got some potential. I'm really rooting for a turnaround. Now we're going to swing west to the Gulf Coast, over to the Tampa Bay area, to the beach that inspired this entire list, Ben T. Davis Beach in Tampa. Not only is this definitively the worst beach in the Tampa Bay area, it might be the worst in the state. This beach is a local punchline. Every other beach on this list has some kind of redeeming value. Some of you may argue that a few of these beaches might not even deserve to be here at all, and that I'm being picky, and I hear you, but there is nothing redeeming at all about Ben T. Davis Beach. Ben T. Davis is what happens when a city just says, just put a beach anywhere and call it a day. It sits right off the Courtney Campbell Causeway, wedged between a highway and some hotel parking lots. The sand is coarse and dirty, the water's often a cloudy brown, and the scenic view is mostly cars flying by at 65 miles an hour or airplanes making their final approach in a nearby Tampa International Airport. And if it couldn't be any worse, Ben T. Davis is frequently flagged by the Florida Department of Health for elevated levels of enterococci bacteria. That's the formal and scientific term for poop water.
What?
Yeah, you probably don't want to be swimming in the water here, like ever. It's also one of the few beaches in Florida where you're more likely to hear car horns than seagulls and breathe in car exhaust rather than salty air, since it sits just feet from a busy highway. From here, we're going to head south to a region known for gorgeous sunsets and world-famous shelling. We're going to head to the Fort Myers-Sanibel area of southwest Florida. And this was a tough spot to pick a bad beach. A lot of really great beaches here. So we had to do a little bit of digging around here. But the worst beach is going to go to Cape Coral Yacht Club Beach. This beach sounds really fancy, right? Yacht Club, it's right there in the name. But don't let that fool you. Cape Coral's Yacht Club Beach sits along the Caloosahatchee River, not the Gulf. And that river water can be murky, brackish, and occasionally the color of iced coffee. More than occasionally, it's always pretty muddy. The beach area here is man-made and small with coarse sand. This beach has water quality concerns, algae issues, general underwhelming vibes. It is more of a local hangout with a nearby tiki bar than a tourist-worthy destination, though, to be fair. So if you came out here expecting Sanibel serenity, you might be shocked to find yourself standing in ankle-deep water in river silt while watching a pontoon boat drift by with a Bluetooth speaker blasting 2003 era Pitbull. It's that kind of place. But that's more of a small, out-of-the-way locals beach. And in the spirit of being fair, I'm going to pick on a bigger, more famous beach down here too. And I'm going to give honorable mention here to Bowman's Beach. Yeah, this is one of the nicest, most peaceful beaches in the region. It's famous for seashells, but Bowman's has earned a reputation for overzealous parking enforcement and what some visitors describe as borderline scammy and predatory ticketing. Lots of online reviewers here report getting slapped with fines minutes after arriving, even while actively paying through the app. It's like the meter attendants are hiding behind a sand dune just waiting for a technicality, then they jump out and slap a ticket on any dashboard they can. So while the beach is nice, the shelling here is world famous, and the Gulf is gorgeous here, the stress of possibly paying $150 or more for forgetting to hit confirm on your Park mobile app kind of ruins the vibe. Next, we're heading over to the East Coast to the Treasure Coast, the area roughly between Vero and Stewart, where we're going to give our worst beach award in this part of the state to Jensen Beach.
Oh, come on!
All right, let me explain. This is another situation where all the beaches in this area are really nice, but we had to pick somebody. And Jensen Beach is a popular favorite around here. It's a picture-perfect beach, wide sand, turquoise water, and a really nice laid-back vibe. This place would be postcard perfect if it weren't for one minor little thing. It's really the only beach in this entire region that occasionally fails water quality tests. Martin County health data shows that while other nearby beaches consistently pass, Jensen Beach sometimes records moderate enterococci bacteria levels, especially after a heavy rainfall. That's the poop water we were talking about earlier. So that's it. In a stretch of shoreline known for really clear blue water, Jensen is really the only one that got flagged, making it the least worst best by default. Add to that the occasional floating algae patches and murky streaks that show up after storms. There may be the few occasions where this beach just isn't going to be the best choice in this area. Now we're going to drive just a little bit south to the Gold Coast, where the beaches are fancy, but not always functional. Our worst beach in the Palm Beach area, Lake Worth Beach Park. Now, Lake Worth Beach Park sounds charming. Pastel buildings, a nice ocean pier here, tropical breezes, but in reality, this beach can be kind of a bait and switch. The beach has a history of water quality issues, that's a common occurrence on this list, and has made more than one worst beach in Florida roundup for reasons that go beyond the water. Locals here report a lot of litter, broken glass in the sand, even occasional car break-ins and rowdy weekend crowds. And the parking, prepare to overpay and then get fined anyway. Confusing signage, really tight parking enforcement, and a nearby towaway zone make it a gamble to even park in some spots around here. Even some longtime residents say it's just not worth the hassle anymore, so think of this as a beach with some trust issues. It looks friendly, but at the end of the day, you're hoping you haven't been given a ticket, that your hubcaps are still on your car, or maybe that you haven't even been towed away altogether. All right, let's head down to one of the most famous beach destinations in the entire world and find the one that maybe just doesn't measure up to the rest, the Miami area. And the worst beach in this area is going to go to Cran Park Beach in Key Biscayne. So Cran Park Beach is one of those places that looks amazing in photos, swaying palms, turquoise water, and a serene tropical setting that's just a few minutes from downtown Miami. But once you're actually here, some of the cracks begin to show. For starters, the water here can be cloudy, the seaweed can pile up fast, and there's a decent chance you'll be swimming alongside jellyfish or other kinds of floating debris. Stormwater runoff and decaying organic matter here can turn the shallows into what one local reviewer called a lukewarm salad. Not exactly refreshing. Not exactly relaxing either. This beach has a reputation for being an overcrowded sea of Bluetooth speakers, and don't you just love it when you go to the beach to relax, only to find yourself in the middle of a cacophony of different songs playing from every direction all around? I don't love that. This beach also has a history of swim advisories due to elevated bacteria levels, especially after heavy rains. And this beach is popular with families for its calm, shallow water, but those same waters can be a bit too calm, allowing stuff to stagnate and get a little bit funky. And you want to watch where you step. A few reviewers here have mentioned sightings of syringes and broken glass in the sand. That's not great. And finally, we're going to drive across the overseas highway through the Florida Keys, where we're going to give our worst beach in the Florida Keys award to Plum Beach in Marathon. Not Cocoa Beach in the Space Coast, although some people might think that beach does belong on this list, Plum Beach. And one of the biggest misconceptions people have about the Florida Keys is that it's just one beautiful beach after another on every island between Miami and Key West. But in reality, the Keys don't really have any natural beaches. Most of the beaches here are man-made because the geology here doesn't really let natural beaches form. So most of the beaches in the Keys are actually pretty subpar by Florida standards. That does surprise a lot of people who come down here from out of state. But the worst one along a stretch of pretty underwhelming beaches is Plum Beach in Marathon. Sure, it's quiet and dog-friendly, but it's also small, rocky, it's usually completely covered in rotting seaweed, and the smell somewhere between dead fish and a compost bin. This is also one of the ugliest beaches in the Keys, and on top of that, the water tends to be murky, slimy, piles of seaweed and debris stretching all the way up the beach. There are no real amenities nearby, so bring everything, water, shade, and maybe even a clothespin for your nose. It's not the worst place to walk your dog, but if you come down here imagining turquoise water and postcard Florida Keys scenery, this one is going to be a really, really big disappointment. So there you have it, Florida's most disappointing beaches, one metro area at a time. Maybe you've been to one of these spots and had a great time. Maybe you're still rinsing sand out of your shoes and wondering why it smelled like low tide and diesel. But either way, I want to hear from you. Which beach did I miss? Which one do you think deserves to be crowned Florida's absolute worst? Or did I just roast your hometown and now you're ready to fight me in the comments? And if you enjoyed this brutally honest beach breakdown, go ahead and hit that like button. It helps a lot more than you think. Subscribe for more fun Florida adventures all around the Sunshine State, from the theme parks to the state parks. And if you really liked this, send it to a friend who needs to know which beach to avoid next spring break. Until next time, stay safe, and I'll see you around the Sunshine State.